13th chapter in the second PUC, Organisms and Populations. This chapter related to ecology. The branch of biology deals with the study of living organisms in relation with environment called ecology. Ecology means a house or home, logos means a study. So, the organisms which live in a particular place influenced by so many factors like temperature, salinity, then soil, light, or the various aspects which influence the growth and development of the organisms. Coming to the temperature. So even the temperature, it reaches more than 50 degrees centigrade in tropical deserts and more than 100 degrees centigrade in deep hydrothermal vents in oceans. It reaches more than 100 degrees centigrade temperature. And the organisms are distributed according to their capacity to withstand the temperature and all. So you cannot grow the mango in Canada or in Germany because too cold. And say for example, snow leopards, you cannot find it in Canada. So the organisms are also distributed according to their capacity to thrive well or to tolerate a temperature or cold, etc. So some organisms tolerate and thrive well in wide range of temperature called euthermal organisms. Some organisms thrive well at the narrow range of temperature called stenothermal organisms. Euthermal organisms and stenothermal organisms. And coming to the temperature required for the enzymal activity are for mammals, that is 37 degrees centigrade temperature. And then coming to the water, that is salinity. The organisms which could tolerate and thrive the wide ranges of salinity called euryhaline organisms, and which could tolerate only narrow range of salinity called stenohaline organisms. So in water especially, the salinity less than 5 ppt in fresh water. Here it is not parts per trillions. Here the ppt means parts per thousand. And in marine water, it is more than 35 to 100 ppt, that is in marine water. And in the hypersaline lagoons, this salinity is even more than 100 in hypersaline lagoons. So this is about the salinity that is in water, etc. And then it is the light which influences the growth and development in organisms. We know that light is required for photosynthesis. Under low light, some plants under the shadow of the canopy trees, some plants they grow under the low light. So low light also. And the for photosynthesis anyhow light is required. And the plants which are exposed to the sunlight, they show vigorous growth, and only the growth is retarded in case of the plants which grow under the shadow of the canopy trees. And does the light also influences the growth and development? So relative period of daylight required for the plants to produce flowers called photoperiod, and the phenomenon called photoperiodism. So according to this, we have studied in first PUC, that is long day plant, short day plant, and day neutral plants. And light also provides cues for foraging, foraging activities. That timings change. They change their timings. That is for reproductive activity and for food activity. It provides cues, ways, that is the light. And some algae, they grow even in the deepest region where it is more than 500 meters depth. That is red algae and brown algae together called kelps. And soil also has a pivot role in determining the growth and development of organisms. Soil pH, especially soil pH, soil size of the soil particles, minerals, and there are certain benthic animals which live in the soil. So soil also has a profound influence on the growth and development of organisms. Maintenance of internal environment called homeostasis. Based on this, there are regulators and conformers. Regulators, they maintain the constant internal environment, whatever may be the external, that is the ambient environment. Such organisms are called regulators. Their temperature always remains constant, that is 37 degrees centigrade in case of, for example, human beings. Whether they are in Antarctica or in Sahara Desert, wherever they may be, they regulate their body temperature and internal environment. Such organisms are called regulators, whereas the conformers, in which their internal environment changes according to the ambient atmosphere, ambient environment. And the shrews and hummingbirds, say for example shrews and hummingbirds, they cannot live in the polar regions because their surface area is more than their body volume. Our surface area is more, loses heat, hence rarely found some small sized organisms because of their large surface area of the body than the body volume. This is also very important. So organisms migrate from stressful area to the hospitable areas, stressful area to hospitable area. This is known as migration. The people during summer, they move from Delhi to Simla, like that. So that is migration. Migration is chiefly because of BSF, breeding, seasonal changes and feeding. And Siberian birds visit during winter to Kerala National Park of Rajasthan, that is the birds sanctuary in Rajasthan. So just they move from the stressful area to hospitable areas. This is known as migration. And we know that petromyzon also migrates and salmon fish also migrates. So these are all the various things about the migration. And suspend period, hibernation and estivation. Hibernation is winter sleep, estivation is summer sleep. For summer sleep, that is the suspend period is called diapause, D-I-A-P-A-U-S-E, diapause, suspended timings. And here the example for the estivation, FSF. Fish, snail and frog undergo the suspended period, that is summer sleep, estivation. Winter sleep by some bears and then zooplankton, they undergo hibernation, diapause, resting period, suspended period during the winter. It is the frog which undergoes both estivation and the hibernation. And coming to the adaptations, this is very easy. Adaptations. So I will give you one code word, LACKRS. All the adaptations we can cover with this code word. So it reduces our time for studying. L A square C square KRS. Take down L A square C square KRS. So so lizards, when there will be more cold, they come out and bask in the sunlight and get warmed up. So that is, lizards are the examples for the conformers. They change their body temperature, internal according to the ambient. So lizards bask in the sunlight and get warmed up during the winter cold time. And then the other one, Archaeobacteria. Archaeobacteria is a euthermal organism which can thrive and tolerate temperature even more than 100 degree centigrade. So for this it has a different cell wall composition, thus it is adapted. And then Allen's rule. The organisms which live at the colder areas, they have small extremities, short extremities. Even the legs are short and ear will be short to prevent loss of heat as they present in the colder region. This is known as Allen's rule. This is also very important. And coming to the C square, cactus. In cactus, the leaves are modified into thorns in order to prevent excessive transpiration. Next, CAM plants, CAM, crassulacean acid metabolism. So this expansion not given, just CAM plants given, crassulacean acid metabolism. These are the succulent plants. These are the xerophytes also, succulent fleshy stem they have. And then these plants, in these plants, stomata are open only during night times and closed during daytimes to prevent excessive transpiration. Next is kangaroo rat. Kangaroo rat which lives in the desert and excretes concentrated urine to minimize the water loss and obtain the water because of fat metabolism. That is the adaptation in the kangaroo rat. The people who live at high altitudes like Rohtang, Manali region, they increase by increasing their breathing rate and the less affinity of the hemoglobin for the oxygen are the adaptations. And these people, they have more number of RBC. That is also an adaptation in case of Rohtang, the people who live at high altitudes. The seal have the adipose tissue, and this adipose tissue prevents loss of heat from the body. These are all the various adaptations which is very important. Coming to the population, group of individuals occupying a particular area called population. So population in a per square kilometer, that is called population density. Population density is determined by capital letter N, population density. And the birth rate is natality, death rate is the mortality, and moving into the population is called immigration, moving out of population is called emigration. Hence, increase in the population density, that is n plus 1 equals nt after some time, is birth rate plus immigration minus death rate plus emigration. That will give you the population density. And two kinds of curves can be observed in this population. So exponential curve and logistic curve. And during the exponential growth, the linear curve we can observe linear curve inclusive when that is the exponential growth curve. And there is one more called logistic curve. That is called Warhurst-Burr logistic curve. Warhurst VRHULESTPARL logistic growth curve. Logistic growth curve. It is S-shaped curve. In the initial stage, less growth, and the more growth in the middle portion, and then decreasing. Thus, we can obtain S-shaped curve. This kind of curve of growth in population can be observed called logistic curve, and there is exponential curve, a straight line, and all these things. And just like the growth, the population also increases. That is, NT equals N0 ERT. NT equals N0 ERT. NT means increase in population density after some time, and N0 means initial population, and E means logarithmic base, and RT intrinsic rate increase per time. This equation also very important for the increase in the population density. That is, NT equals N0 ERT. So next, coming to such definitions, you know, dN by dt equals Rn. dN by dt equals Rn. That is, dN by dt equals B minus D into N. Here the dN, increase or decrease in the population density, by dt means increase at a particular time, equals B minus D, birth rate minus death rate, into N means population density. If B minus D is R, then dN by dt equals Rn. So dN by dt equals Rn, dN by dt Rn, and K minus N by K. This equation also very important. K is the carrying capacity. So it is the increase in the population when the sources are abundant. That is very important. When sources are abundant, increase in population, that is called the K. So it is K minus N, the population density, by K. It is also equal to dN by dt equals Rn. This equation is also very important as far as the population is concerned. And one thing here in the textbook it is given. We have studied about the monocarpic plants like the bamboo, which lives for only 50 to 100 years and produces flowers only once in its lifetime. It produces large number of flowers and seeds that you have studied in the first chapter of second PUC. Monocarpic plants, Strobilanthus kuntiana, Neelakurinji. The next flowering is at 2030. The last flowering 2018. So its lifespan is only 12 years. And so similarly, salmon fish also, it produces eggs only once in their lifetime, just like bamboo plant seeds and flowers are produced only once in lifetime. So these examples are also given. Apart from this, next important thing, the last aspect, coming to the last aspect in this, the 13th chapter is the interactions. So competition, predation, parasitism, mutualism, commensalism, amensalism are the various kinds of interactions. So competition is a kind of interaction where both organisms are affected, that is minus. It is a negative interaction found in organisms where both organisms are affected. Minus, this one. So, say for example, in competition, what happens? One example, if the a disaster is a starfish of American Pacific coast. Disaster is a starfish. When removed, about 10 invertebrates, they become extinct. They died because of the competition. When disaster is removed, 10 invertebrates became extinct because of competition. So in these 10 invertebrates, both are affected and they became extinct, disappeared because of this kind of competition. Predation, plus minus interaction, where one is benefited, other one is killed. So predator always predates over their prey. But there are certain preys which have some adaptations, which develop adaptations to avoid their predators. So in case of animals, for example, certain frogs, etc., chameleon, etc., they camouflage. That means they change their color. They change their color to prevent their predators. And one more example from the animals given in the textbook, that is the monarch butterfly. Monarch butterfly eats some poisonous weeds and obtain the milky substance from the poisonous weeds and becomes distasteful to its predator. That is very important. In plants already we have studied, that is cactus develops thorns to prevent their predators, and the calotropes yucca that produces the cardiac glycosides which affects their predators, and to prevent their predators they develop cardiac glycosides. So the flamingo birds of the South America competes with the fishes for the same kind of food, that is the competition. So Gauze's exclusion principle, that means when two organisms live in a particular place for the same resource, in the course of time one will be eliminated. That is called Gauze's exclusion principle. So here, for the same resource, flamingo birds of South America and the fishes, they compete with each other. And there is the introduction of the goats. Because of the introduction of goats and abingdon tortoises became extinct because of competition. Overgrazing goats introduced. So the competition between the abingdon tortoises made them to extinct. So this is also. There is one more called competition release. Some organisms, to prevent competition, they just move away from the area where the larger, the superior organisms are present. This is called competition release. Connell's field experiment shows that the larger barnacles overcompetes with the smaller barnacles and eliminates the smaller barnacles, Cathamalus. Mark Arthur also showed the foraging activity to avoid the competition by some birds, some organisms like warblers. So the Mark Arthur showed they changed their food timings just to prevent the competition. Next to competition is parasitism. Parasitism means plus minus, where one is benefited, other one is severely affected, called parasitism. So here in parasitism, there are ectoparasites and endoparasites. Ectoparasites, lice, bugs, etc. are ectoparasite. Mosquito is not a parasite because it does not depend upon the blood for its food. It is not a parasite at all. So ectoparasites. So it requires blood for its the development of the eggs, that is next to this. And ectoparasites are lice, bugs, leeches, etc. are the ectoparasites. Endoparasites, roundworm, tapeworm, etc. Liver fluke is a parasite. It completes its life cycle in the two host, that is snail and fish given. Liver fluke, Fasciola hepatica. There are ectoparasites and endoparasites. And parasites have some adaptations. They have the thick cuticle, cannot be digested by the digestive enzymes, and they have hooks, suckers, and some are resort to anaerobic respiration, and they produce large number of eggs, are some of the adaptations shown by the parasites. Brood parasitism can be seen in cuckoo and the crow. Cuckoo lays eggs in crow's nest, and the crow they shelter these eggs, and as soon as till the baby cuckoos come out from the eggs. So this kind of parasitism is called brood parasitism. Commensalism is a kind of interaction where when is benefited, other one is not harmed, other one is not harmed. So I will give you a simple code word, COWS. What are all the things given in the textbook? COWS. Number one, cattle. Egg birds take ride on the cattle. As the cattle moves, the insects come out, and they feed on the insects. Thus, one is benefited without harming the cattle. That is one example for the commensalism. Orchid plants are the small plants which grow on the branches of the trees, and they get just shelter. They do not observe anything from the plants, mango trees, or the trees on which they grow. Thus one is benefited without harming the mango. That is another example. And whale and barnacles grow on the whales and get free transportation, do not obtain anything from the whales. Thus one is benefited without harming. And a relationship between sea anemone and clone fishes. Sea anemone, technically called Adamsia, and the clone fishes, they get attached to the sea anemones, and because of the tentacles having stinging cells in the sea anemone, their predators do not approach this one, the clone fishes. Thus one is benefited without harming the another one. So thus cows, C, cattle and egg birds, O, orchid and mango trees, whale and barnacles, W, yes, C, anemone, and the clone fishes. Coming to the last aspect, that is mutualism. It is a kind of interaction between two organisms where both organisms are mutually benefited. Lichens are formed by the association of algae and fungi. Algal partner called phycobiont, fungal partner called mycobiont, where algae provides food to the fungi provides moisture and surface area for absorption. Thus both organisms are mutually benefiting. And the rhizobium, Bacteriorhiza, Mycorrhiza are the organisms that you have studied in the previous chapters. Bacteria living in rods, fungi living in rods, and then the Nostoc and Anabina which live in the coralloid roots called Phycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza, Bacteriorhiza. So are the examples for this one, and we know very well co-extinction, that is one cannot live without another one. Some plants they provide oviposition for certain moths, etc., like Yucca and Amorphophallus that we have studied in the second chapter. Thus both organisms are mutually benefited as these plants are pollinating insects, and the plants are the examples for mutualism. But a fascinating type of example can be seen in case of interaction between the bumblebees and Ophrys, that is Mediterranean orchid. A fascinating type of mutualism can be seen. So this Mediterranean orchid, it has a petal which resembles the female bumblebee. So hence the male bee, because of this uncanny resemblance of the one of the petal as the female comes, the male comes and copulates with the petal itself. This is known as sexual deceit or pseudo-copulation, where the male bumblebee gets sexual satisfaction. At the same time, the flower or the plant also will be helped because of pollination. So this kind of fascinating mutualism can be seen between the bumblebees and the Mediterranean orchid. Amensalism is a kind of interaction where one is inhibited, other one is not harmed. So for example, the trichoderm fungi, it inhibits the growth of other fungi. That is also very, very important. And here and there, biological control is also given. So for example, for the cactus, to control certain moths are important, and even Parthenium for the carrot grass, certain insects are imported just to control one organism with another, that is called